So let's look at philosophy. Moral values. And to put it in a nutshell, how would you have moral values if, from an unbeliever standpoint? Technically, there is no right and wrong then. Whether it's rape, murder, nothing would really be, everything would be permissible, really, which is pretty frightening. Dr. Francis Collins, as we talked about, another thing he touched on is what C.S. Lewis and many others refer to as this built-in moral code. It's as far as it being objective in nature. He touches on, he works at the, here we go, sorry. Objective moral values is one of the key arguments that most caught his attention early on. Page 21 of his books, the argument that most caught my attention and most rocked my ideas about science and spirit down to their foundation was right in the title of C.S. Lewis' book, Mere Christianity. Right and wrong as a clue of the meaning of the universe. While in many ways the moral law that Lewis described as a universal feature of human existence, in other ways it was as if I was recognizing it for the first time. Moral law is used in hundreds of different scenarios every day, whether it is fairness at work, a child taking another child's toy, etc., acts of war, president's actions, human rights, starving children, etc., etc. But what we have here is very peculiar. The concept of right and wrong appears to be universal among all members of the human species, though its application may result in widely different outcomes, of course. It thus seems to be a phenomenon approaching that of a law, an actual law, like the law of gravitation or of special relativity, according to Francis Collins. Yet in this instance, it is a law that, if we are honest with ourselves, is broken with astounding regularity, sadly. As best I can tell, this law appears appears particularly to human beings. Dr. Collins then follows up with a quote on that the moral code cannot be explained by any evolutionary or cultural artifact. He is left with the following quote on pages 28 through 29 of his book. If the law of human nature cannot be explained as cultural or evolutionary byproduct, then how can we account for its presence? There is truly something unusual going on here. To quote C.S. Lewis, if there was a controlling power outside of the universe, it could not show itself to us as one of the facts inside the universe, no more than the architect of a house could actually be a wall or staircase or fireplace in that house. The only way which we could expect it to show itself would be inside ourselves as an influence or a command, trying to get us to behave in a certain way. And that is just what we find inside ourselves. Surely, this ought to arouse suspicions. Mere Christianity, page 21. Fyodor Dostoevsky, who William Lane Craig says, wow, if you like C.S. Lewis, you need to read Dostoevsky. The Human Predicament and the Problem of Evil in his book, The Grand Inquisitor, Dostoevsky sought to carry through a two-pronged defense of theism in the fact of the problem of evil. Positively, he argued that innocent suffering may perfect character and bring one in closer relation to God. Negatively, he tried to show that if the existence of God is denied, then one is landed in complete moral relativism, so that no act, regardless of how dreadful or heinous, can be condemned by the unbeliever. And that brings us back to Mother Teresa or Hitler. Technically, there's really no difference in without a moral code. Yeah, neither one any worse or better than the other. There is no good, no bad, no nothing. And I think most of us, every one of us, even the one that denies it, has that little cringe. The cringe gives it away. That moral code is innate and built into us. And we recognize that this response, Dostoevsky recognizes that his response to atheism constitutes no positive proof of Christianity. Indeed, he rejects that there could be such. Men demand of Christ that he furnish them bread and circuses, is his quote, but he refuses to do so. The decision to follow Christ must be made in loneliness and anxiety. Each person must face for himself the anguish of a world without God, and in the solitude of his own heart, give himself